So you think you've got the MCU timeline all figured out? You've watched all the movies, binged the Disney Plus shows, maybe even got a fancy chronological order list from the internet. Well, I'm here to tell you, you might want to throw that list away. The Marvel Cinematic Universe timeline is way more broken, more confusing, and frankly, more hilarious than you could ever imagine. Let's start with the big one, the 8-year elephant in the room. I'm talking about Spider-Man: Homecoming. The movie opens with Adrian Toomes, our future Vulture, cleaning up the mess from the Battle of New York. We all know that battle happened in 2012, right? The first Avengers film. Then, a title card flashes on screen. 8 years later. Wait, what? 8 years after 2012 will be 2020, but Homecoming is clearly set in 2016. Just a couple of months after Captain America: Civil War. This single title card throws the entire first 3 phases into a blender. If Homecoming is in 2020, that means Civil War: Age of Ultron, and everything in between gets pushed forward, creating a massive, unsolvable mess. Marvel themselves later admitted this was just a mistake. A simple typo that sent fan theorists into a frenzy for years. Classic. The little boy in the Iron Man mask who stands up to one of Hammer's drones before Tony Stark saves him. For years, it was a popular fan theory that this kid was a young Peter Parker. It made sense. The Stark Expo was in Queens, Peter's home borough. Fast forward to 2017, and Tom Holland, our Spider-Man, confirms it. He said he'd talked to Kevin Feige, the head of Marvel Studios, and they decided to officially make it canon. Awesome, right? A cool little retcon. Except, let's do the math. Where we meet Peter Parker is in 2016. Peter is 15 years old in Civil War, which means he was born around 2001. So in 2010, the kid in the movie looks maybe 6 or 7 at the absolute oldest. It's a tiny detail, but it's one of those things that just doesn't quite line up when you look too closely. The timeline is starting to fray at the edges. But their timeline is a special kind of weird. In the first film, Peter Quill says he was abducted from Earth in 1988. Then, the movie jumps forward 26 years to the present day, which places it squarely in 2014. Simple enough. Then comes Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. The film's opening scene is a flashback to 1980, with a young Ego and Meredith Quill. The main story then starts just a few months after the first movie. So still 2014, no problem there. But here's where it gets funky. Thor tells the Guardians that the attack on his Asgardian ship happened right before he met them. Between late 2017 and early 2018, the Guardians somehow aged 4 years. How? Have they been time traveling? Is time just different in space? The movies never explain it. For 4 years, until the writers needed them to crash into Thor's spaceship. This brings us to the biggest timeline headache of all. The blip, or is it the snap? Even the characters in universe can't seem to agree. But the real confusion is how the world dealt with half of all life disappearing, and then suddenly reappearing 5 years later. WandaVision gives us a glimpse into the chaos. A random student's younger brother is now his older brother. It feels a little too clean, right? Think about the logistical nightmare. What happened to people's houses, jobs, or bank accounts? Did everyone who blipped back just find their homes occupied by new families? The movies kind of gloss over the gritty details in favor of moving the plot along. The 5-year gap is a brilliant storytelling device for creating new character dynamics, but the practical application of it crumbles under the slightest bit of scrutiny. And let's not forget the TV shows. Oh, the shows. Remember when Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. used to have a tagline, "It's all connected"? For the first few seasons, it really tried. It dealt with the fallout from the Winter Soldier and Age of Ultron directly. But as the show went on, it started doing its own thing, involving time travel, alternate dimensions, and Ghost Rider. By the final season, it was so far removed from the movie timeline that it might as well have been in its own separate universe. And what about the Netflix shows like Daredevil and Jessica Jones? They made vague references to the incident in New York and the big green guy, but they were clearly operating on their own much grittier timeline. Trying to slot them into the main MCU chronology is a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Now, you might be thinking, does any of this really matter? And honestly, the emotional beats still land, the action is still incredible, and the characters are still compelling. The MCU is a massive, sprawling narrative built by hundreds of different writers and directors over more than a decade. In a way, the inconsistencies are part of the fun. They give us fans endless things to debate, theorize about, and make videos on. It's like a giant shared puzzle that we're all trying to solve together, even if we know some pieces were cut wrong from the start. The truth is, the MCU timeline isn't a perfect straight line. It's more like a tangled ball of yarn. It's messy, it's complicated, and sometimes it contradicts itself. But that's what makes it feel so big and, in a strange way, so real. It wasn't all planned out in a single room from day one. It grew and evolved, sometimes awkwardly, just like real life. From the 8 years later gaffe to the mystery of the Guardians' lost years, these little breaks in the timeline are the battle scars of an unprecedented cinematic achievement. So next time you watch an MCU movie and something feels a little off, don't worry about it. Just sit back, grab your popcorn, and enjoy the ride. The timeline might be broken, but the magic is still there. Thanks for watching, everyone. What's the biggest MCU timeline error that drives you crazy? Let me know down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Marvel's messy continuity, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more. See you next time.